Yo, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, I appreciate you stopping by. If you're returning, we got a new project on the channel. As some of you might know, I bought a 2024 Chevy Silverado with the 5.3 in it, 4x4 Trail Boss, which means it comes from the factory with a 2-inch lift. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to kind of walk you guys around the truck, kind of show you what I've done already, and then what I'm about to do in the next couple of days. So without further ado, let's do a walk around the truck. Okay, so I have the truck opened. So this is a black on black 2024 Chevy Silverado Z71 Trail Boss. Like I said, it's sitting on a 2-inch lift from the factory. It's like quad cab. I love the new design of the quad cab because there's so much more room in the rear. The first mod I did to the truck already is I already put a low profile hard tri-fold tonneau cover on. I put the RC Rough Country, or I guess just the Rough Country hardcover on. Easy to install. I found a video on YouTube that told me how to do it. So yeah, let's jump inside the truck. So like I said, it's black on black. It's got all the bells and whistles that you can think of. And we've got the one with the sunroof, which is kind of cool. So it's got the super cool startup feature. I love the infotainment center here. Love the new dashboard. It's got the shifter here. The only thing I don't like about this is it takes a little while to get used to, but it does have a low gear in it, and in order to get out of the low gear, you gotta, from what I understand, you gotta put it in neutral and then pull it back to drive. If for some reason you double tap when you put it in drive, it puts it in low. Not a big deal, right? But let me continue walking you around the truck. Oh, there's Hulk. There's the Lightning. It's my daughter's car. Yeah, so big back seat. Comes with this hardcover case under here, which is kind of cool. Got my drying towel in here. But there's so much leg room in here compared to my old GMC. There is barely any room back here. So when you're sitting in the back, the two people in the front basically have to scoot up on the dashboard so you have leg room. All right, so continue to walk around. So this is the dual opening tailgate. So it's got two buttons here, as you can see. So the bottom one opens the tailgate. And then if you hit that top button, it drops this extra step down. And then you drop this down. I do have a mod that's going to go in here pretty soon. I'll walk you guys through that as soon as I do it. But that's here in the near future. So yeah, you can open the tailgate like this, which is kind of cool, right? So it just kind of gives you something to set your tools on if you're working on something out here, is where you don't have to open up the tailgate. Plus you can still access the inside, which is kind of cool. And then you just close it up. Also, the good thing about it is it's the tailgate locks when the truck locks, so you can't, in theory, can't get into the bed of the truck without it. But if you really wanted to, I'm sure there's a way to bust through the hard cap cover on the top. And the truck's got eyes all around the truck, which is kind of cool. Takes a little getting used to, but the whole reason why I've got the hood open is because I'm going to do the next mod, and that is changing out this huge box here. So I bought a CAI air filter. I shouldn't say I bought it. Santa brought it for me for Christmas. So I have an amazing wife who listens, and so she bought that for me. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go inside, grab the box, and then come out here and open up the box and figure out what tools I need to install this thing. This is the first time that I've had to had this huge box. Normally it's just this inlet that goes into the throttle body that you change out, but now there's this big box here, so we got to figure out how to take that off. So without further ado, let's get after it. Okay, so I just dragged out the box with the CAI in it, so I'm gonna flip the camera around and kind of show you guys the one that. Okay, so this is the CAI that I purchased. As you can see, 2020 to 2024 V8 5362. Yes, the truck does come in a 6.2, but they're super hard to find in a 6.2 in the one that I wanted. So I went with the 5.3, not a big deal. What I like about this one is it's the all black one. There's a picture of it right there, and that is the part number. So let's open this thing up. All right, so here's all the parts. We've got some gasket connectors, some zip ties, some bolts, some nuts. That's the weather tube, or the seal, if you will, that goes around the top of the filter housing. We got some hose couplers that will go on that, and on the filter, and on the intake or the throttle body on the manifold of the truck. So what I'm gonna do now, again, so this is the one I ordered. That's the part number, if you guys want to do this yourself. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna open up the instructions. All right, so everybody's gonna ask, those are the numbers from CAI for adding on this this cold air intake onto this truck. So you can see 17 more horses at 5,000 RPMs, 23 foot-pounds of torque at 3,000 RPMs. And there's all the truck data. So I won't get the truck dyno tuned because this is an everyday driver, so I really don't care about this precise performance, but I'm sure there's going to be a little notice, and there'll be a sound notice, of course, but I'm more looking for the cleanliness in the engine bay for adding this. So let's get started. Okay, I just went and grabbed the tools. So on the parts or the instructions, I don't know if you guys can read that. Phillips head screwdriver, flat blade screwdriver, ratchet extension, 10 millimeter, 3 millimeter Allen, 4 millimeter Allen, T10, T20, and a pick. Well, I have all that stuff there. There's my torque spits, and I have my driver. So let's get started. All right, so the first step is to remove or to disconnect the negative battery terminal. So let's go do that. Okay, so 10 millimeter screw here to remove the negative terminal off the battery, and then I just put a rag in between, just so there's no incidental contact anywhere. So that's step one. Step two, I believe, is we're going to take off the mass float sensor, and that is this here, and that is going to be where your torques, either 10 or 20, come into play. So let's grab that. Okay, so I took off the T20 screws out of the mass flow air intake center, air intake. But what I forgot to do is I forgot to take the clip off of this. So you should be able to just pinch and pull off, kind of tuck that to the side. And you don't want to do anything with this, so just kind of set, you know, this is your sensor. Just kind of set this aside. I'm going to set it up here. So that's step one. I always recommend having a magnetic tray so you don't lose your screws. So let's go to step two. Or I guess we've already done step two, so now we're going to do step three. So we're going to depress the locking tabs and then disconnect the crankcase vent line from the intake plenum and the valve cover vent port. So let's go find those. Okay, so if you're wondering where this tube is at, so if you're looking at the motor, it's on the passenger side, right behind this big box here. It is right. It's this one here. So there's your alternator. So it's right behind your alternator. So you're gonna disconnect this one here. Okay, there it is. I just took it off. Literally takes 2 seconds. All right, next step is to loosen the hose clamps. Disconnect the plenum connections at the air filter housing, and then rotate the plenum counterclockwise to disengage the keyed mount. And I'll walk you through all that. Okay, so loosen the hose clamp here, loosen the hose clamp on the throttle body. That rectangle piece folds up this way, and basically yank it off the top, and it clips on to there. That thing's a pain in the dick. It took me a second to get it off, but I basically had to yank it off. All right, let's go to the next step. Okay, now it says to remove the 2 bolts on top of the hood release latch, which are these 2 here. So let's do that. All right, so I removed the hood latch. Now I'm going to remove the 10 retaining clips that secure the upper radiator valance, and then remove the valance from the vehicle, which is basically this piece here. So all these little clips here, we're gonna take those off. Okay, so I took that valance out. So now we're gonna go to step 7 on the instructions, which is, pull this open here. Okay, it says remove the plastic retaining clip that secures the fresh air intake duct, and then pull the duct forward to disengage it from the factory airbox housing. So let's do that, which is right there. And that is your intake tube from the top. All right, so number 8 says using a 90-degree pick or similar tool, release the locking tab that secures the wiring harness bulk connector to the air filter housing, and then unconnect the connector from the housing. So that is talking about this here. So let's go ahead and disconnect that. Okay, so here's that plug. So basically, if you just pull up and back out, it comes out like that, and it basically just slides right under here. So that's off. What was the other thing? Oh yeah. So that was just to pull that off. And then next is we're going to remove the nut that secures the air filter housing, unhook the wiring harness from the filter housing, and then remove the air filter housing from the vehicle. Yeah, you want to go slow on this one because you don't want to rip anything, bang anything off. But basically you can see that it's connected here. So I've got some pull pin connector tool. I'm just gonna pull this off, and then the 10mm is right there. So we're gonna undo that. Okay, so the airbox is removed. Basically that one 10mm screw here, a couple of wiring attachments to the box, and take them off, and you're good to go. Let's see what's next. Okay, so next is we're going to put the trim over the heat shield as shown in the diagram. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, I put the gasket on. So it says to start here, kind of work your way around to here. There's bigger than a 90-degree angle, almost a 45-degree angle here. I couldn't get this, so what I did is I just trimmed it and then bent it around, and it worked fine. All right, so let's go to the next step. All right, so next we're going to provide the filter adapter to the heat shield and secure it with the provided hardware. So what they were talking about is this piece here. It is a hard filter adapter. So let's put this on. Okay, so there's two 10mm hex nuts. Don't forget to put the washers on like I just did. They're inside all of the pieces that come with the kit. So let's go to the next step. The next step is install the provided wiring connector mounting bracket onto the heat shield. So that is this piece here, and that piece is right here. And of course that's going to be another screw. Okay, so I had to update. So these are actually the 4mm Allen wrench screws because I needed the hex heads to put these on up here. All right, so I left this loose until I put this rig in just to figure out where the placement of this has to be with the with that connector that we disconnected earlier. So now we're going to put this grommet in per the instructions. It says install the provided wiring connector mount. Oh, we already did that one. Install the provided grommet mount onto the heat shield using the provided hardware, and then install the factory mounting grommet onto the mount as shown. So let's do that now. Okay, so I basically just took the factory grommet off the airbox, the factory airbox, and installed it here. Just like this. All right, so next step is to take this little aluminum piece, attach a screw to the back side of it, and then screw it on here. And then on the bottom of your factory box, there's these little plugs that sit here and here. You're basically just going to take one, and it's going to go right over the top of it. All right, let's see what the next thing is. So next thing is to install the heat shield assembly into the vehicle so that the mounting grommet slides into the factory mounting hole, and then slide the fresh air intake scoop into the opening into the heat shield and secure to the factory points. All right, let's try this. Okay, so I tightened up the bracket that holds this sensor in place. I tightened that 10mm screw back down there. So now the housing is in place. And let's go to the next step. Okay, so we put the connector back on. So now we're gonna reinstall the radiator valance that we took off, which is the piece that goes right here in the front on top. Let's do that now. Okay, easy peasy. Put those plastic pins back in, these ones here that we took out. And then the next step is to reinstall the hood latch, and then we're gonna start putting the intake together. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna install this hump coupler with some hose clamps, which is this thing here. There's your part number. And it's gonna go on the back side of your airbox. All right, so next, we got that coupler on. Now we're gonna put this coupler on. This is the 4-inch to 3.5 inch, and it's gonna go over the throttle body with the appropriate hose clamps. Okay, just like that. The smaller hose clamp goes in the back, the larger one goes in the front. I just slid the larger one on for now. Let's see kind of what's next. So after that, we are going to install the provided 90-degree quick connect fitting onto the CAI intake as shown on the filter. So let's go down and look at those. All right, so there's my 90-degree fitting. It's gonna go into this part. So here's your 90-degree tube. Here's my 90-degree fitting, and the fitting is gonna go inside here. All right, so put the mass airflow sensor on. It looks like it's upside down, but in order for it to connect on this one here, it's got to face that way. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put this intake tube on in the spot that's open. All right, so last piece of the puzzle is this tube here. It's the crankcase vent hose. It's got two fittings. Basically, you got to put the hose together. It's got two fittings, two hose clamps, put it all together, and then you mount it up on the air intake and then the crankcase vent tube piece. Connect the mass air sensor electrical connection, and then put the air filter on, and then we are done, and then reconnect the battery. So I've done the mass airflow sensor is already done. I've connected the crankcase vent hose, made sure all the fittings are nice and tight. Sits in there pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the air filter on. So let me do that now. And it comes in this box in the kit. Okay, so the filter comes pre-greased. I kind of just put it so the CAI was facing the correct way. Yeah, I know it looks dirty now. I'll wipe it down before I'm done. But that's it. If you guys have any questions, let me know. One problem I did have is I didn't have a second bolt for this air sensor. So luckily I had one in the garage and I had some matching bolts to put in here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to reconnect the negative terminal, and then we'll start the truck up. All right, reconnected the battery, so now I'm going to start the truck up. See if we get any lights in on the dashboard. Open and then close the driver's side window.